and today we're going to talk about triggering. So, Val, you get triggered a lot.
Yes, I do.
Tell me what it feels like when a trigger happens.
When a trigger happens, I start to feel shaky. I start to feel dizzy. I start to feel, I do get cold inside of myself. I get cold, and I start to get confused, and I start to be able to not be able to explain what I'm thinking, and then I stop being able to think. Panic. I feel panic struck.
Feel panic. What helps you pull out of that when you're in it? If I'm not around, what do you do?
Well, what I do now, I do use the imagery. I do that, but the one in particular that we've done multiple times. I do deep breathing. Actually, the one thing that helps I can't do when I'm around other people, because breathing in and then holding it and then breathing out using your voice. That's one of the yoga breathings. I can't think of the name of it, but it does help me. I was doing that in the car on the way here today.
Okay.
Trying to tell myself, I'm okay, but normally when that happens, I'm panic struck in my mind, and I'm just trying to cover it up in front of other people who don't understand if I'm with other people. If I'm by myself, I might go ahead then and like start crying and, lie down.
How long does it take from the time you're triggered for a trigger to pass, or does it depend on the situation and the trigger?
It depends on the situation and the trigger. Because I can get nervous. I can get triggered that's just like anxious, but it doesn't develop into all the other symptoms. It does happen that way sometimes, and I'm not inclined to necessarily go full on. The worst case scenario is I feel like I'm going to pass out, which I just did that.
And so when the triggers hit and then they're starting to pass, how do you process the trigger, what it is?
You mean trying to decide what caused it?
Exactly.
Well, I don't think that I do very quickly. I think I'm quicker than I used to be. There are certain people that I know I feel uncomfortable, and I know I get triggered by. Well, I get triggered by people who've triggered me previously. I mean, again, I know I'm getting triggered. They're not making it happen, but I can know that I've been triggered before and be nervous about it in advance.
Exactly. That's a good point, because what happens when you avoid a trigger? Does it go away?
No.
Because a lot of people think, well, I'll just avoid my triggers, and then...
No, because it becomes larger in my head. It bigger, it grows.
If you expose yourself to the same trigger over and over and over, what happens?
It gets less.
Over time.
Over time.
That is the key, folks listening, is triggers get less and less the more you allow yourself to feel them, deal with them. Now, the trigger response is point A and point B, okay? Point A is the trigger, point B is your response. Now, what happens at point A for you? We already talked about that, right? You get sweaty, your heart races, you get foggy, dizzy. So all those things happen. Now you have 10 seconds between point A and point B. What do you do in those 10 seconds now that you didn't do before?
Well, I recognize that it's happening. So I start deep breathing right away. That's the first thing I do, I think. Because I notice that when I'm getting triggered, I start to pull up like this. You've even said that you've seen me doing this.
Physically.
And so what I do is I'm quicker to realize I'm doing that. So I do the things, I try to do the opposite. So I try to relax my shoulders, because that's definitely like the first thing that happens, I think, actually. And I do the deep breathing, and I know I'm supposed to, I don't always do it, but I know I'm supposed to realize, like, this is not this other thing
that's key.
Yeah, which, sometimes.
And I'm safe. I'm not where the wound happened. I'm in a different spot. I'm still being triggered, but I'm safe. This is not what the original wound was. It's going to be okay. How do I respond? Let's say you don't want the other person to know that you've been triggered by a wound that they don't even know about, and you don't want them to know about.
Right.
So you're out in public, this is happening. So from the time A to B, what do you do when you have to respond to that person? How do you try and not react to the trigger?
I have a couple of times, because, you know, I'm still new at this, but I have a couple times said, I don't want to talk about that. That upsets me, and I can't discuss that. Like, I've actually done that a couple times. And just, that's almost like it's making eye contact with the trigger in a way, like halting it in a way.
And you have permission to say, no, I don't want to talk about that right now. We don't always give ourselves permission to walk away from something. If you're in the middle of a trigger and you need to walk away, go to the bathroom for 5 minutes. Do your deep breathing. Do some things to get yourself settled down. Just as you can make yourself anxious by overthinking something, you can calm yourself down by how you think. Is there anything else with triggers that we didn't?
Yeah, I was just thinking in my head that my reaction, my emotional reaction, and I guess my memory is that I'm not safe and that I'm trapped. I can't get out. I want to get out of there. I want to get out of it. That's always what runs through my head. If I'm not with another person who would think I'm nuts or whatever, which who cares, but I still care a little, I will say it out loud. I'm not trapped. That's not real, you know, and saying it out loud actually helps me.
Oh, okay.
It's just, you're not always in a situation where
no,
you can do that.
And you can say that internally to yourself, and that's what I do a lot of the time. So I don't get triggered that often anymore. I used to get triggered a lot, but I'm 20 years into my healing. You're 2 years into your healing. And so my triggering is almost completely gone, other than from, you know, basic things that happen from time to time. Yours happens how often, would you say?
Well, lately, I've had it a little bit every day, but not massive. Okay. And part of it is that I am learning what my triggers even are. I'm still in the process of learning why it is that that's happening. As I find out what it is, I'm able to address it easier.
Were there times where you felt like you stayed triggered for periods of time?
Yeah.
How long?
Off and on for a couple years, which now I'm chronically ill, so it makes little...
So, and that's a whole nother topic. We're going to talk about chronic illness and triggers and PTSD. But with triggers, what happens over time is they will get less and less. But also, I want you to know that you're safe during the trigger. You don't have to panic. You can talk yourself down. You do your deep breathing, and they will get less and less over time. Like Val has had times where she was triggered for months at a time, and now it happens periodically during the day, and it goes away. And it's less and less and less and less. The reactions are less and less. And so when you think, oh, I don't want to still be triggered, well, it's part of PTSD. Unfortunately, triggering is part of PTSD. And we can manage them, but they never completely go away. So that's part of healing. There is good news. You can be free in a way that the triggers don't control you. They don't stop you from doing anything. They don't hinder you. And you know going into a situation, hey, this may trigger me, it may not, but I'm going to be prepared, and I'm going to have all my tools in my tool belt. What I always tell you, put your tool belt on, make sure you got them all fastened around you, and then you can manage life, and you can actually do well. And you'll start actually seeing, when you're in conversations with people, you'll start noticing people getting triggered. And so these are all the things that we can think to talk about triggers right now. So if you have any questions, please reach out to Linda Life Coaching and Counseling, and we look forward to hearing you again. Please hit subscribe. Please leave a comment for us. We want to hear your feedback. So thanks for listening and have a great day.